Joel from The Board Game Mechanics, one half of the podcasting duo. You can find our podcast, our Facebook stuff, everything at our website down below. I love that you guys are fans. I love that you're engaging with us. And if we pick up a couple fans from this video, that'd be awesome. So check out our website, hook up with us, engage with us. We love it. So thank you to you guys who are fans. Thank you to you who do engage in our groups and things. Man, we love you guys. Thank you also to Stronghold. Stronghold letting us take a look at this game. Enjoyed it. Really had a good time with this one. Okay, so I don't want to give away any more than that. Let's get to the table. Let's take a look at how this game plays. And then we will get back here, and I'll give you some thoughts on it. So, real quick, though, before we get to the table, I want to say this. This game's going to seem really complex, really heavy, seem like it's something that wouldn't be accessible to people. I want to just encourage you right now to say it's not like that. It's a pretty accessible game, pretty great game that I think just about anybody could play. And once you start playing it and feel the rhythm of the game, it's very smooth. So that smoothness of this game is hard to convey when just explaining rules. So just please understand that this game plays much better than it's able to be described, I think. So anyway, let's get to the table. We'll take a look at some of those rules, and then I'll get you back here and we'll talk about what I thought about this game overall and give you a final rating before we send you on your way. All right, here we go. All right. So let's take a look here. Let's just go ahead and go on a tour of the game here to start off. Right off the bat, we're going to look at the main board. So this is a post-mortem. This is what the board's going to look like after we've played the game. Here's a picture for you to see what it looks like before we start playing. But here's basically the end of the game. The only thing I've reset, just for the sake of this video, are these cards here. These are street cards, and those are really critical to understand how this game plays. So I went ahead and reset those, so that way we could take a look at like some gameplay. But right off the bat, here on the board, the mosaic tiles here, this is like I'm just going to pull one of these off so you can see. It's like a series of a bunch of colored squares. Those go on there depending on player count. So that's nice. This is a 2-player setup right now. If you have more players than this, you will get an array of 4 or an array of 5. So that way you can grow the game with player count, and it doesn't get too much more crowded. The next component that I think is kind of neat are these columns. This is definitely something that you can tell this is a Kickstarter quality, really nice game. But this is how many points you're going to score off of the column as the game goes on in each round, because we're going to build that. We're going to assemble that as the game goes on. So the amount of points that we're going to get from one of the certain kinds of structures is going to change because of that. These street cards, which I'll talk about quite a bit more later, those are important. They come in 3 stacks because we're going to play this game over the course of 3 years, playing each season of each year. I think is the way how we want to think about that. Finally, there are these Trajan cards, and these Trajan cards are basically the things that the leaders want to see done in your area, they want you to spend your influence in the kingdom. And so if you're able to do the things they like you to do, you get extra points for doing these things. When those stacks of cards in each of those 3 stacks of cards is depleted, we'll do a scoring, and these things will score. I have my coins on the board because it's an easy place to store them. Kind of neat. The board just looks kind of neat. It looks like just a good old-fashioned Euro game, but just done really nicely. It looks great. I got another game recently that is a brand new game. If you look at my reviews, my list of reviews, you'll see which one I'm talking about. They tried to make the game look modern and chic, and it just ended up being a bad looking board because it's just so black. This one, however, I really like the design, the functionality of it's really great, and it's nice to look at during the game. But it does have really nice iconography on it, which once you figure out the icons, they're really easy to play with. You have stacks of tiles. There's double tiles up here, and then single tiles down here. And those are worth noting too, because these tiles up here, I'm going to go ahead and pull one of these up. It has a gray and a green on there. And so that's important because when we want to build, we can build 2 buildings at once if we can qualify ourselves to be able to build that. So those are really important. And then if you can't qualify yourself to build a double, there's a single tile down here. And there's basically 2 types. There are the homes or the private areas, or I don't know how you'd want to say this, the stuff that isn't going to be a part of the empire, and they're going to be excited that you built this basically municipal building. And then there's the municipal works kind of things like the libraries, the monuments, the commerce places, different things like that. When you build these gray buildings, you're going to get, I'm going to go ahead and zoom down on the board a little bit here. When you build these gray buildings, you're going to get benefits. So as I build a gray building, I'm going to slide my thing up when I do it, and I'm going to get one of these things in there as a benefit. The benefit I get from building one of the colored pieces is I get to place one of my guys down on these mosaics. And those mosaics, I want to connect things together. I want to build around these leaders here. That eagle is basically a mark of where the leaders are at. And so if I can position people around the leaders, they're able to get me more influence and more points in the game. So that's a neat thing going on in this game as well. So that's the main board. Now that's where a lot of the game does happen, but it really does store components as much as anything. And then that mosaic area does really matter. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that does really matter. Here's again a post-mortem basically of the game that I just got finished playing. This is what the board looked like when he was done. He pulled off his some of his tiles and stuff because he was trying to help me out and clean up. But there's like a lot of different tiles on there that you can see that he's built and placed. This is my game, how it finished, and I didn't do a thing with it. I just left it for you guys to take a look at. So let's see if that's gonna work for you guys to be able to take a look at. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Over here on this side of the player board, we're gonna start off just looking at like the different parts of the player board, and I'll show you kind of how the game works. This over here is where you can put in like management citizens almost, and their oversight is going to make things more valuable. The Patreons are going to say, hey, man, since you built all these gray buildings, I want to score lots of points for those. So that's really a chief way how you score points in this game is by building gray buildings in each row. And then by getting these guys put in there, not only do they give you an extra benefit, sometimes recurring several times through the game, but they also multiply your points by more. So my son went with a strategy of trying to build up his point multiplier for those rows a lot. I went with something different. I tried to build a lot of gray buildings. So, and we ended up being really tight on scoring. I won by, about 5 points. So there was multiple strategies that we tried, and we ended up being really tight in this last play. Every play that I've had of this game has been really, really close. So it is a true point style. There's a lot of ways to get points in this game. And when we get to scoring, I'll talk about all the different things that are going to score. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit again. So there's an overview of the whole board. I'm going to go ahead and bring in, this is the things I do for you guys, because I want you to really understand this game. This is a player board that has been reset. So on here, we have all of our citizens in our colonia, or I think that's what we want to call it. I don't. The terms I get a little bit mixed up, but this is my player board area where my citizens are resting. They aren't quite working yet. And then I have 3 female citizens here that are different than the rest. So they're unique. The gender thing, I think they only did that just to make it easily identifiable. They could have, made them wear black robes and white robes or whatever, but I think that they just wanted to make them distinct from the other 3 because they are important for starting. So they could have put a border on them or whatever. And I mean, I don't think they're trying to make any kind of commentary there, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I think it's fine. The 3 female tiles, though, I'm going to pick randomly one of them, and that's the starting power that I have to put in here. So I have a choice now to put this one on one of these 2 spots. This one's going to say that I can transform brown workers into like the wild card kind of like color changing workers into other workers. And this one says that I can turn them into builders that are building gray buildings. So, I mean, either one of those is really great, but I think I'm going to take the top one. And the reason why I'm going to do that, truthfully, is because this bottom row, if you look at these 4 spaces in the corners, there are cranes in there, and there's a fewer spots to build in that row. This row, I have a 1 extra spot to build, so I may be able to score a little better there. And remember, I'm going to score better if I put something in that column there. So that's that. Then these last 2 that I didn't select, they need to go on the corners, but on opposite corners. So I'm going to stick this one here and this one here, and then I'll have opportunities to use those later in the game if I choose. So then the way how the whole game works, like we'll just go through real quick, like what a round of this game would look like. So I'm going to grab these street cards here. These are the street cards I said we'd talk about here in a minute. So we flip over 2 of these. These would be on the main board, but we'd take a look at them and we'd see what they are. So these cards, the only thing that really matters on these cards are these symbols here. That symbol and that symbol. So we have like a bath in the Coliseum, it looks like, okay? So that just means simply, when I look at my player board, I'm looking for the bath. Right here's the bath, and I'm looking for the Coliseum. The Coliseum's right here. So the bath and the Coliseum. So that just simply means that when I take things off of there, I have to pick from those streets or those rows and columns. Now, something interesting to talk about is I'll go ahead and show you this right now. This is the board that I just had out. Look at this board. This one is identical to the one across the way there because there's an A side to these boards and a B side. So the A side, identical. The whites are the columns, the blacks are the rows. You flip them over and everything's mixed up and everyone has a different board. So as you want to play this game on multiple plays, that's going to help contribute to the replayability of this game a little bit. So anyway, I need to pick from the Coliseum and the baths. So I need to take off 2 workers off of here. I picked 2. And so the thing that makes sense, and this will maybe make sense as we play the game a little bit here, is to take 2 next to each other because that opens up 2 pieces of real estate. So when I take those building tiles there, I'm going to stick them onto my own player board. Having them adjacent to each other is going to really help me to be able to build up things better, faster, be more efficient. So here are the 2 tiles I took off there. Let's see if we can get those to like kind of, there we go. So the one choice I have is going to give me a red worker and a gray worker. The other one's going to give me a green worker and a gray worker. So I would have started off the game with some workers. And let's say that I did have a green worker already. I don't want a second green worker. So I want to get this green worker out of here. I'm going to hang on to this red one and gray one. So I'm going to stick it right here in the bottom corner of my board. And this over here, I'm going to hand off to my partner. Or my opponent, I guess, really, not my partner. He's kind of my partner. He would have handed me back 2 tiles then. So let's say I'm playing against green here. Or he would have picked off 2 tiles as well. He picks 1, he hands me off 1. So those are like some not super interesting tiles that I'm picking off right now. But let's just say, like, let's look at these other examples here. This one would give me a white worker, or a white, like a Patreon, I think, or not I don't know what his name is, but the white guy gives me some additional options when it comes to picking off things. And then a tribune's what they're called. And that would give me a coin as well. Well, coins are important because these guys over on the side here, I have to pay them before we score. So that's something that they may want to keep. They may want to hand that off to me. And then the other one is a brown, which like allows me to change the color of a worker that I have. And then pick a color of any worker that you want to have. So that's pretty powerful too. So I think that like the people would probably, in this game I'd want to keep this because, you know, that's going to be what I keep. And then I'm going to hand this one off. So you would hand off this green one to me face down. I have these both face down in front of me now. So now this slash means I'm going to flip these over on my turn. Let's go ahead and zoom down so you can take a look at that a little better. Let's pan down. So I'm going to flip these over. And then I get my choice on these, okay? So I already showed you this. I knew this was there because I picked it from the get-go. This one, though, this one is, boy, I don't know. That's pretty good. Those white tribunes, they'll allow me to like ignore avenues and boulevards and the columns and rows when I have to follow those street cards. So it lets me free up some of these cranes and things, which are going to help me score points. And then I get a coin, and coins are just really hard to get in this game. But these gray workers and these orange workers, man, I really need to get that going too. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one. So it goes face down here, and I already have one of these at the beginning of the game. Let's pan over here. I have one of these guys face down here. There's one extra one already. Now I have a second one I'm just going to stick right on top of there. And so then I went ahead and took that, and this is going to go face up here next to me on the side of my player board. Let's go ahead and just stick that like right there. And that's something where if like a situation were to happen later in the game where the planning wasn't as good as it should have been, or just sometimes the cards flip in an unfortunate order, if I couldn't get a tile from my opponent, I could eventually maybe possibly pick that as an option for me to use later in the game. So I want to keep that, hang on to that, put it face up, because there's a chance this could get used later in the game. But I went ahead and took the orange or red and the gray worker. And then, that's the first part of my action is I choose one of those tiles and pick what to do with it. This time I cash it out for workers. The second thing I get to do then is I get to spend workers to get one of those tiles. Well, I'm going to spend a gray and a red worker to get a gray-red combination tile. So here's a gray-red combination tile. It's just a red-red on the back, but it's a gray-red here. Well, this is why it was important that I went ahead and I took off 2 adjacent squares, because now I can stick this here. And now I did 2 buildings on 1 action. I put on 2 things in 1 action. That's going to help me with potentially scoring some bonuses later in the game. I'm getting things covered up. The other thing too is that I now get to take one of these and put it on the main board on one of the red spots. So if you look back at our red board, or our main board, those mosaic tiles are covered in our little chips here, because we're trying to get like basically continuity and be near those leaders to get extra points in this game. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about scoring. So the final thing I want to just mention are these cranes. These cranes, as they get uncovered, so this one I had the column here that I could have taken one of these off there, and I really probably should have. I should have uncovered that blue crane. So then when we do final scoring, I would use this tile instead. We're going through a whole different scenario that could have happened. But then I would score every blue building in my area. And the first time that we do scoring, it would be worth 3 points apiece, then 2, then 1. So if I wait longer, these get weaker, but there'll potentially be more buildings out there that I can score. Once I score that, I would flip it over. And I can't build over it ever, even if it's not colored and special. But that means I can score like a one-time bonus off of each color of buildings on there. So let's go ahead and talk. We get a nice little player aid. This player aid's not bad at all. It's actually laid out really nicely, and it's going to help beginning players understand. It gives like an explanation of the different kinds of components that you get in the game. It gives some explanation of like the side here, the management kind of things that I talked about. And then this is the biggest thing. It gives a round summary, and then it gives us a scoring summary. And the scoring phase is what, like, I use this still for scoring phases. We just go through it. So the first thing we do is that crane action where we talk about we get points for all the colored tiles that we have. The second one is we score gray buildings. So that's the big way we score points. Is that every building in each row is going to score you 1, 2, or 3 points depending on the number of patrons. So if this guy, see how there's a second one there? I'd score 2 points for every unique gray building in there. Well, I don't have any unique gray buildings in there yet because the game's just starting. But I do have a unique gray building up here, right? I have one gray building at 1 point. So I do have 1 point right there off the bat, right? So scoring gray buildings. And like if we look at the example, I dumped my board. But if you want to look at my son's board that has all the gray buildings on there still, you can see where he scored just a ton of points on one of these. He has all 3 filled in. So they're scoring 3 points apiece, and he actually had 4 unique buildings. So he's scoring the maximum points basically there that he can score in that row. So he did a good job on maximizing his gray building scoring, which is a big part of your points. Then the adjacency to eagles, you can take one of the special powers to score diagonally as well, but you score a lot of points from those eagles. Then you also get your areas of envoys. So this is one of the real neat things in this game, is that you have this slider here, okay? Let's pan up here a little bit so you can take a look at this slider. This slider starts all the way back. Let's make sure we have a fixed focus on that. I want to really be able to see that. So this is going to score points down here based on my envoy, how many adjacent things I have in my envoy. So if I had, 8 things adjacent to my envoy, I'd score 3 points for it here at the beginning of the game. But one of the actions I can take, one of the things that shows up on these tiles, one of the things that shows up as a bonus is I can slide this down, okay? So let's say I slid this all the way down to, let's say we got all the way down to the maximum. And then I had 8. I'm going to score 15 points off that envoy. So by doing a combination of things there, I can score more points. The other thing, too, is this head, where this, like, bust of this guy, is that matters because it's really hard to see, I think, on this, but there's, like, a 3, 5, and 7. So when we score those Trajan cards, that's how many points I'm going to score for accomplishing those. So if I slide this way down, I'm going to score a lot more points for accomplishing those Trajan cards. One of the other actions you got to do is flip this over, and you get an upgraded version of this as well. So that means that basically, if you have smaller cloisters, you get more points, and the head's shifted down. So the head is easier to shift down because it's in a different spot. If you look, it's on the 3rd spot. On this one, it's on the 4th spot. So it's going to be able to get you more points. So people want to say Stephan Feld is a big fan of making point salads and doing the point salad thing, and this one's not much different in that regard. It is very much a point salad-y game. This is those Trajan cards would be the last thing we would score. We'd score the one that says the first period there. There's a spot for those on the side of the board there, but for the sake of this shot, I stick it just below there. We'd score those cards, and there's an explanation of how those all score in the book, but there's 2 parts to it. Basically, one on how you lay out your tiles on the board, or the tiles you select on the board, and then the bottom one's the set collection, basically for like resources you have or people you have placed in different spots. So all that goes together to make Forum Trajanum. This isn't, I'm not trying to give you guys a rules explanation on this. I'm just trying to maybe get us some common language that we can get started on talking about what I think about the game. There is a lot of different things going on here, but really the game does feel pretty simple. Basically you're picking 2 tiles off based on those cards flipping over, giving one to a partner or giving one to an opponent, taking one from an opponent, and then picking one of those things to get resources or get something from it, then using your resources you have to build or do something out on the main board and on your player board. So not overly complicated really, but it feels kind of unique, honestly. So this is Forum Trajanum. just a rough sketch kind of how the gameplay works. All right, so that is Forum Trajanum, and it's not a complete overview, but it's enough of an overview that you get, I think, an understanding of what's going on there. So with that understanding, let's get right into it. What do I think of this game? Well, the pros far outweigh the cons in this game, so there's a good hint for you for what I'm going to end up on this game. The point salad thing in this, point salad is like almost like a negative term. People neg that term saying, "Oh, it's just point salad." Like, that's lame. Point salad's awesome. I love having like tons of choices. I love having tons of ways that I can go about playing a game and trying to win it. In this game, I've tried to win it a bunch of different ways. I've played ways that people aren't playing, and I've tried following people. And when I play ways that people aren't playing, it generally is more fun for me. I have more freedom, more ability to do what I want to do. But then also, I'm competitive still. So like all the different paths that they have in this game, whether it be the gray buildings or the colored buildings or the little scoring track at the top, sliding it way down, like however you just want to spend your actions and your turns, it's gonna work out. It's gonna give you some points. So and you're gonna be close and competitive. So this game's pretty well balanced. That said, I think the second time you play it, things click a little better for you. The first time you're not gonna beat people who've played it before, probably, but you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna learn the game, and then you'll be competitive your second time through it. So I think that it's a great point salad. Done really well. It's really balanced. Gives you lots of ways to play the game, lots of freedom on how you want to play it. And it's actually kind of a simple game underneath it. Take these two tiles, get the resources, then use those resources to do something. Not hard. The components are great. So this is fun. I love these guys. These guys right here are awesome. They like, to me, they're like S A F E safety. Dance. I don't know how that song goes exactly, but they look like me with hats, kind of. And then this is the other fun thing too. I originally picked one of these green ones to put, but there is a problem. When you pick a green component and you're using a green screen, it ends up causing problems. So anyway, the components are great in this game, though. They're really just good components. The wood pieces are well finished, painted nicely. They didn't go with like a generic meeple. I like that they had the uniquely shaped meeples to this game. The different shapes also help to let you understand that, okay, the white workers are going to be slightly different in how they work than the other ones. So that unique shape actually does contribute to helping the game be a little more streamlined, a little bit better. The cardboard in the game is really great. The thickness of the player boards is great. The cards are really thin, but they almost feel like they're plastic, like they aren't even cardboard. So the cards are super thin, but they aren't going to get handled. So I think the thing about the cards is, I'm going to say they're great too. They're just really, really thin, but they lay so nice and flat then. So that's the plus of that. If you were going to handle these cards and play them down and shuffle them all the time, I would be like, man, you got to sleeve these cards. But I think the way how they are right now, they work great for this game. Just the fact that they're basically a display. They're just a randomizing agent that displays what's happening in this game. I think they're perfect for that. So the cards are good. The player aids are the only thing that it's like made out of rulebook material. So it just is like, if it gets handled much, it's going to get crinkled up and wrinkled. In this copy, I'm going to go ahead and laminate those. I have a laminator. I suggest you guys get a laminator. It's a great investment for board gamers to put your player aids through that you print off or anything like that. Laminating them just makes it so much better. Laminating those player aids is going to fix that issue, make it better than anything that I would be able to get into a box. Like if I got the laminated player aids that I'm going to end up with in this game right out of the box, I'd rave about it. I'd be like, whoa, this is amazing. So I'm going to end up with an amazing component. In addition, after I laminate it, so the components are very good. The complexity of this game. So this is where like this game to a lot of people is going to seem like it may be heavy, or it may seem like it's some people who are really into heavy Felds are going to go, all you're doing is picking a tile and then doing something. There's a lot of really meaningful choices in this game, a lot of meaningful choices, but the rules are fairly simple. And this game, it plays way smoother than I'm able to portray to you guys. Like this is one of those games that once you experience it and play it, how smooth it is and how well it plays will become really apparent really quickly. So I really like it. I like that you're doing that, like pick a tile thing and then getting some resources, then using the resources to be efficient and try and just, get things built in your little colony. And it's like the theme isn't super present. I mean, like the theme absolutely works that you're trying to impress like a governor or something by doing these actions. And I mean, that makes sense. but it's a neat little puzzle. It's just a neat puzzle that you're trying to figure out, how do I maximize this puzzle to get the most points I can. So I think that the accessibility to people is going to be just fine. I think the weight complexity of it is just right. It's not impossible to learn. So this is something that an average gamer can learn and feel pretty good about it. But it's not something that's going to be simple enough that people who love heavy games or want games that have a lot of meaningful choices in them aren't going to feel like they had that. So the complexity is just kind of right in that sweet spot. The other thing that's crazy about this game is the player interaction. So like a lot of these Euro point salad type games are solitaire games. I mean, the player interaction in them is just very minimal. So like a game I'm thinking of right now that came out last year, that's a good Euro game. I love this game, but it's solitaire. 4 people playing solitaire is Newton. This game, like the player interaction on it is so much higher because you're trying to figure out how you're going to lay your people on those mosaic tiles. That's one way you interact with people and try and block people and try and, connect before they can block you. So you're picking the right tiles and picking the right buildings to get the placement out there just then. But then also you're handing them something. You're giving them something every time. So you're the whole time thinking, man, how can I not give them what they need, give them what they want? So the interaction in this game is as high as any Euro that I've ever played. I mean, like, this is just like, man, the way how the opponents play this game, or the way how you play this game against your opponents, is as highly interactive as you're going to find, especially in a Feld game. So, I mean, the player interaction on this is super high. The only con I have for this game, this is a game that I think on game day, you're going to want to have it set up before your people arrive. So it's not terrible to set up, but just making all those little stacks of single buildings and the stacks of double buildings on the main board, getting your cards spread out, that's not bad. But the building stacks are a little bit fiddly. And then having your mosaic tiles, that's quick. That's just putting down a couple things. But then putting all the little people on the player board, that takes a little while. So the setup on this game does take a little while. But I think a lot of it could be done before people showed up to play. So if this is the first game you're going to play, I would suggest you do it that way. It's not going to be bad. I mean, like, you're going to hit the table and get going on it. And then putting it away isn't too bad either. There's a lot of things you can sort out or do need to sort out, especially with you trading those little cardboard pieces back and forth, that you do need to sort those out at the end of the game. The setup and teardown is a little long on it, but not bad. And it's not to the point where it's going to cripple this guy getting to the table at all. So I think it's a little more than some games, but not so much that it totally like ruins the game or anything. So let's get into my final ratings here on this. All right, so the components, giving this a 4 out of 5. The only component in there that I thought was a little bit hokey was that player aid made out of paper, basically. Other than that, the components in this are really nice. The art, the graphic design, really good. I think it's really excellent. And I mean, like, some of the parts are a little over the top, like the column and the pillar. And as I'm thinking about it, I may even think that you could convince me it's a 4.5 even. So the components on it are great. It's just not over the top like some of the games we see nowadays, but perfectly good, above average components. The accessibility, I would say this is moderate. Like, and that by accessibility, I mean the complexity on this one, like the rule set. I think this one's going to be like pretty widely available to play with people. Children might not quite figure this one out. So like people who've, are like in that 10-year-old, but I played Ticket to Ride kind of group, may not quite get this one yet. Casual gamers, like casual, like I'm thinking of my spouse, like she doesn't play games a ton. I wouldn't try and play this one with her. But any gaming group that I go to, no one would have a problem with this at all. And I think that even people I play like more casually with it, like my brother, he plays games with me 3-4 times a year at holidays. I wouldn't have a problem teaching him this game either. So this is one that's moderately accessible. Most everyone's going to get to it and get to play it. Some people will be confused by it and you shouldn't play with that. The theme, no one's going to object to this theme, I don't think. I mean, like, and by the theming, I mean, like, some games, there's blood and gore in them. There's like foul language. I mean, there's stuff like that is present. This one has none of that. I mean, this is just a widely accessible theme. I think that most anyone's going to think the theme's fine on it. It may not engage people as much as some other themes, but it's a perfectly good theme. And the theme really, I mean, like I said, it's a puzzle. It's almost abstracted puzzle, but the theme works with it. It's just the theme's not going to be something that draws people in, maybe. But I don't see where the theme's going to put anybody out either. So it's widely acceptable. The fun on this is 4 out of 5. It's a lot of fun to play this game. It's not like a laugh a minute kind of game, but you feel like you're being productive. You feel like you're solving a puzzle. So that's a lot of fun. The design on this, The overall design of the game is so clever. And this is where I think this game really shines. This game doesn't feel like any other game I've played. Like, this game is unique in what it does. It's tile placement, kinda. It's city building, kinda. It's drafting, kinda. I mean, it's a lot of different things in this game that are going on that I haven't really experienced this combination and the way how this is all done in any other game. So the uniqueness of this game is really, really strong. This is where I think this game shines. I don't think I could say there's another game that if you've played this game, then you kind of know what this game's about. Because there's not another game that I would say, yeah, these two are pretty similar. Just the blend of everything in this game is unique enough that, like, I don't know, it's just different. So it feels different to me than any other Feld game even. I know Feld's games kind of, he does, put some mechanics across, and there are things in this game that appear in other games, or variations of things that happen in this game that appear in other games. But just the combination and the way how it all works together, it's pretty different than anything else. So I really like this game. If you like Feld, it's like kind of a no-brainer. It's like I think it's one of his better games, honestly. So what do I put this at? A final rating of 4.5 out of 5 wrenches. So 4.5 out of 5 wrenches means that I think that if you're a enthusiastic hobby board game player, you would benefit from playing this game and owning this game. I think probably 80%, 85% of people would benefit from owning and playing this game. So I think it's really a great game that a lot of people should check it out. I just, the thing that makes me sell it, or be sold on it to sell it to you guys, is that I think it is different than most any other game. And it's not going to be, there's not a lot of overlap in this game with other games. So I think that's what's really cool about it. I think it's a neat game. It's just a different feeling game. And it's a nice puzzle. You feel productive. You feel like you've built something kind of at the end of it, or solved it to a degree. So that just process of just going through this thing, making your thing better, just feels really gratifying too. Really do like it. 4.5 out of 5 wrenches. Enough said, right? So that's been Forum Trajanum. That's about it, guys. I really hope this was helpful for you to understand if you want to try and seek this one out to play it or buy it. I wouldn't have any reservations on it. If you're on the fence about it, just jump. It's a good game. Definitely good. So any questions about it? Anything that we missed? Anything that's messed up? Find a way to connect with us, and we'll talk to you about it. And we love having fans. We're big fans of you guys as our fans. So anyway, I've been Joel with the Board Game Mechanics, and keep gaming.